Hello everyone, and thank you for your interest in the Splunk Cloud Migration Assessment app. Today we're going to be looking at version 5.0.0, which has significant updates to it compared to versions in the past. So first, let's talk about the setup page. This is the page that you see when you land inside of the Splunk Cloud Migration Assessment app. We have links to documentation at the top here that you should read, as well as some that are nested away. And if it's your first time through, give these all a read to make sure that you're installing the application in the right place and that you're using the proper strategy to collect your data. The first dashboard panel that you're presented with lets you know whether or not you have access to all the data sources that we expect to analyze throughout the migration assessment, as well as some of our best practices in place to ensure that when you run the application that it's going to be a success. Inside of the messages field, you'll have recommendations that will help you correct anything that might show up red here. And once you've completed all of that, feel free to move forward. Down below here, you're going to want to make sure that your customer name is set correctly. The application will try to do it through automation. However, sometimes you'll need to change this manually to make sure that it properly reflects your company's name. In the licensing section here, we will automatically determine the size of your license that you have installed for Splunk Core. For all of the other applications like Enterprise Security, PCI, and ITSI, we ask that you manually enter in your license that you currently have for those products if you have them at all. And then finally at the bottom, we select our compliance requirements. We can pick which cloud provider we prefer to be in and what type of environment would we like to build. If you're unsure, speak with your cloud sales team and they'll help guide you through this. And then finally at the bottom, we can move on to the checks. The checks dashboard has been completely rewritten in version 5.0.0. Here we're using a brand new framework which we've developed from scratch. What we can see here in this dashboard is that we have actually run this in the past. So if we want to reload what I've run in the past, I just simply click on the link and we can reload it and see those results. However, for the purposes of the demo, let's pretend like we haven't run this before, and we'll run it as if it were the first time. So the first thing we want to do is initiate the SCMA discovery search. And what's happening here is that we're running a search which helps us categorize what types of Splunk servers you have supporting your infrastructure. So we're trying to identify indexers, we're trying to identify license masters, search heads, etc., or even if you have everything installed on a single instance like I do here. If everything is green, you're good to move on. If you have something show up red that tells you an instance is not connected, make sure that you have it connected by following the instructions that we provided to you, simply by setting up the monitoring console properly. And once you have all green, we're good to go with the checks. Now the checks framework here is different than in the past in that we're running all of the checks in the background. This means that the timeout is automatically increased from 10 minutes to 24 hours. So no check is going to time out for a customer. We had seen that with some very large and some very busy environments where checks would time out, and this seems to have eliminated that problem for everyone. As the checks complete, we'll see that we have tiles being populated down below, and the vertical bar tells us that the search itself that's running was successful, or if it failed, it would show as red. And when it's running, you'll see it as gray or black. And then the circular icon here tells us the status of the check. So what happened as a result of that check. Here we can see from the main page that I didn't have access to all of the data. And if I look closely at this check, it's going to tell you exactly that. And here you can see the errors where I'm missing data, and I should go back and fix that before moving on. However, in my case, I'm running a Mac, and on a Mac we do not have that data type inside of Splunk, so it will never be there for me. So it's okay for me to move on knowing that's the situation. Another great benefit of this new checks framework is that we can leave it and come back to it. So if we wanted to fast forward to our scoping and planning, we could come here, and the scoping and planning page, the reason why it's written separately is because here we're collecting information that we cannot get through automatic searches, right? So this is stuff that we have to ask you as a person to provide us the answer. So questions like, are you going to have a data migration? Are you going to consolidate multiple instances or environments? When would you like to have this project completed? Things like that. And at the top here, we're gathering information for professional services because a lot of the information that we're collecting inside of the application will allow professional services to automatically generate a draft statement of work, which is one of the benefits of running the application end to end. Next, you'll see that we have license planning. And here we're just asking you, what are your plans for licensing over the next 3 years? And here you can figure out what you're going to do in the future. And we're going to have an understanding of what we need to support moving forward to ensure your success, in a long-term sense. And then down below at the very bottom here, we have storage. Here we're just simply asking how much immediately searchable storage do you need and how much archive storage do you need here. The details on the differences between all of these are well documented inside of Splunk, and you can always reach out to your sales team and have a discussion with them to determine which storage type is best for you. And if we were done with the checks, we would move on to data export, but we left them running, so let's go back in and have a look. So here you can see the discovery results at the top, and now painting below are our checks that are still running. So this is a great feature enhancement because if you were to kick these checks off, let's say on a Friday night before you left for the weekend because you weren't sure how long it was going to take, if someone applied a patch to your computer and your computer rebooted, when you log back into the application, it's going to pick up right where it's at and where it would be currently for you. So the benefit is that you don't have to start all over, right? You're going to be able to continue on without having to do any additional work. And if all the checks are completed, you're going to be presented with the window that we saw in the very beginning. Next, let's take a look at data export. Here, not much has really changed. Agree to the EULA, put in your Splunk.com username and password, click upload to Splunk, and this is how you share your data with us. If you're concerned about what data you're sharing with us, you can preview it through these links up here. And if you're air-gapped, we have additional export options at the bottom, which allow you to export the checks results locally in a zip file, and then you can put them on a USB drive and sneakernet them over to a computer that has internet access and share it with us that way. So these are the main parts of the SCMA app. Next, let's take a look at what we have under advanced preparation. Under the advanced preparation section, we have an advanced preparation overview. Here we're explaining what the intention is of the two next dashboards. First, we have the Knowledge Object Management dashboard. This dashboard is intended to allow you to understand which applications you're using the most so you can prioritize moving them to Splunk Cloud first. It will also help you identify applications that you're not using so that you do not move them to Splunk Cloud, because if you're not using something, why would we waste the time and resources on migrating it? And we can click through here and we can see what's inside. Here we see we have a very similar knowledge objects check interface. I'm not going to walk through this because it behaves exactly the same way that we did under the checks framework, but this has a different set of checks that are specific to knowledge objects. And now it's also important to understand that all of the data under advanced preparation that you're going to see is not collected by Splunk. We are not going to see any of this. This has PII in it. And with the data that we're collecting under the data export, we spend a lot of time and effort to ensure that we're not collecting PII data. But below here, you can see under the knowledge object usage report, which applications are being used the most. The application usage is dependent on different types of knowledge objects. So we want to know if you're looking at your dashboards. We want to know if you're looking at reports. We want to know if you're using your macros, or if you're using lookups that are all defined inside of the application. You can also export this information if you need to share it internally at your company. The next section is the automatic applications assessment. And what this does is it's intended to send all of the applications that you want to have migrated to Splunk Cloud to a utility that we call App Inspect. And what App Inspect does is it lets us know whether or not that application is suitable for Splunk Cloud. To do this, you simply put in your username and password and click login to generate the token. The token will appear inside of this box, and you can then move on to choose which applications to assess. So you could assess everything that you have on this machine or any variation thereof based on these inputs. The next important thing is how to assess the information. And really, the concentration here is around what are we going to do with that local directory? Are we going to merge it to default? Are we going to only inspect local? Are we going to only inspect default? You have choices here. After you make all these choices, you simply select submit, and it will send out the job, and it will collect all the information from all of your applications. I just sprinkled a little magic on this, put in my credentials, and I was able to receive my token. I then submitted my job, and now you can see that I've submitted several jobs, and I can simply select one to see the results below. And you can see this job is actually still processing above here. But these will be the results to all of my application assessments. And you can see that my poker app is okay to move over, but one of the versions of the SCMA app that I have installed locally is not ready for Splunk Cloud. You can see the results right inside of the application. There's a link that takes you to that report. So here you want to be ensure that you rinse and repeat until all of your applications are ready for migration. Now, this is under the advanced preparation section, meaning it's not for every user. However, if you're interested in trying to save time and save some PS dollars and start working on applications on your own, this is the perfect place to go. So I'd like to thank you for looking at the new version of the SCMA app. Good luck with your Splunk Cloud migration, and happy Splunking.